Usually sealed wax, especially if it's a good rookie class, can do well for you. But this is something I've been thinking about for a while. And to be honest with you, I'm getting tired of looking at some of my sealed wax and having to store some of my sealed wax. And I'd rather turn it into some singles. Hey, everybody, welcome into another edition of Nonsense on Ice presented by Upper Deck. Doug Plagens here with you. This is where we talk hockey and we talk the hobby. We thank you very much for being here with us this week. And well, we have a lot to get to. Recording a little bit early. Going to get to why that is here in just a moment. It's going to impact the structure of things here on Nonsense on Ice because we're recording early, but I don't want that to make you think we're not going to have all the substance that you've come to hopefully expect, hopefully love, and know from all the previous editions of Nonsense on Ice, which has a rich history that dates all the way back to November of 2025, if you can believe it. Lots to get to because, well, we're just a few weeks away from the end of the NHL regular season. So naturally, at this time of the year, no shortage of material, no shortage of storylines being sent our way, no shortage of things to talk about. So we'll get to a lot of the key notes that we have right now. Not going to get too much into time-sensitive items because, again, recording on a Friday. Normally, and taking you behind the curtain a little bit here on Nonsense on Ice, normally we record on the weekend, and normally we record on a Sunday, but aren't able to do that this week. We'll tell you why. NHL storylines coming your way. We're going to hit on some of the crazy wild card races, some NHL debuts to know. We have a milestone for a future Hall of Fame goaltender. We'll get to that coming up here in just a few moments. Some new releases from our friends at Upper Deck that are on the horizon. We'll talk about some of that. A lot of great mailbag questions, folks, and this was something that over the last couple of weeks we've been trying to gather some good topics, some good questions. We certainly did want to congratulate our winner, by the way. We gave away some packs, some Tim Hortons packs that I picked up when I was in Canada. We're going to do that again. So again, don't worry if you weren't one of the winners. We are going to do that again here down the road. We'll get to all those questions. We'll recognize the winner because one of the winner's questions got into the mix here. So we'll have all that coming up here shortly. Hobby 3 stars, value vintage pick, lots to get to, some thoughts on sealed wax. I feel like if you're in this hobby in any capacity, whether it's a few sealed packs sitting around or a closet full of sealed wax or something in between, everybody probably has some form of sealed product sitting around. And whether you go out of your way to collect that sealed wax or you have it by accident, you probably sit there sometimes and wonder what the future of that for you is as far as your collection goes, as far as what you're going to do with that item. So we'll get to some thoughts on that coming up here in just a little bit. We'll touch on, I think I mentioned the card ladder index, and it's in the green. It looks encouraging as far as hockey is concerned. I mentioned recording on a Friday this week. Busy week for me upcoming. And if you're a new listener to Nonsense on Ice, a new viewer to Nonsense on Ice, we welcome you aboard. In my day job, I'm the radio broadcaster for the Florida Panthers, so I travel everywhere with the team. We've got a busy weekend coming up here. So I'm doing Nonsense on Ice right now. A little bit later on today, we're going to be making the trip up to New York. Matinee game against the Islanders, a Saturday matinee, and then a day later, Sunday, we'll have a matinee against the Rangers at the Garden. So because of the matinee games over the weekend, because of the travel, because of everything that's connected to that, going to get the show recorded on a Friday this week. So that's why the schedule a little different here for this edition of Nonsense on Ice, which, again, full disclosure, taking you behind the curtain, March 27th. We are recording. Friday, March 27th, we are recording this edition of Nonsense on Ice presented by our friends at Upper Deck. This date range always sticks out for me, folks. I grew up in Detroit, March 26th, 1997. So at the time of our recording, it was one day ago. That was 29 years since what I would consider to be the best regular season game in the history of the National Hockey League. Joe Louis Arena, March 26, 1997. The Red Wings and the Avalanche. All the future Hall of Famers involved. You had two contenders. You had all the fights. You had everything that went along with the lead up to that game. You knew that those two teams were going to meet in the Western Conference Final that spring. They did. Detroit ended up winning their first Stanley Cup in 42 years that year. But that was, again, the Red Wings won it in overtime. The game had twists and turns all over the place. Like I said, future Hall of Famers all over the place. It was, again, to me, the best regular season game that's ever been played. And at the time of our recording, 29 years and 1 day since that one. My dad and I were at the Joe for that game back on March 26, 1997. And I was, at that point in time, 11. Had never seen anything like that then. Not sure I've seen anything like that now as far as a regular season game is concerned. So if that's new to you, first you're hearing of it, or you just want a refresher, hadn't thought about it in a while, go and watch some of the many YouTube clips from that game that do exist. That was something special. Card Ladder Index at the time of our recording, looking good for the hobby, looking good for hockey. The last week, up 1.62% as far as things go right now. The last month, up 2.77%. The last 3 months, up 11.35%, the hockey segment of the sports card hobby. And that right there shows you that there's been a rise from the Olympics, a bump from the Olympics. We knew that we'd see that, but it seems like things went up from the Olympics and they kind of stayed up. Things have stayed in a good place as far as the hockey hobby is concerned. Lots of great young talent. We've had a great season across the league. We've had a lot of young players emerge. As we've discussed in recent weeks, we've had a lot of established stars see their individual markets increase and stay at what feels like new heights, new levels. Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov, players like that who already came in with a lot of pricey stuff as far as their cards go. And the prices have gone up due to good performance. They've stayed in their new price ranges. Just an encouraging time to be a sports card collector, to be a hockey card collector. So again, hopefully everybody is feeling pretty good about their collections right now. Some storylines to get to. The wild card races. Well, no pun intended, folks, but they are wild at this point in time. Looking in the Eastern Conference, you have a lot of teams in the mix here, and well, Boston has managed to keep its spot at the time of our recording. The Islanders and the Senators, they've gone into kind of flip-flop mode back and forth. The Detroit Red Wings, they're still runway, they're still racetrack, but at one point in time, the Red Wings looked like they had a pretty firm hold on a playoff spot, on ending their playoff drought. Hard to believe. Dylan Larkin's rookie year was the last time the Red Wings were in the playoffs. Well, things have gotten a little bit more difficult for them here at this point in time. There's going to be a lot of movement down the stretch. I'm not going to get too much into breaking down points and what needs to happen. There are a lot of games down the stretch that involve these teams playing each other, so that's certainly going to be worth monitoring. Over on the Western Conference side of things, Utah seems pretty entrenched. How about the fact that there is a scenario? It's starting to be a little bit less likely here at this point, but for a while there, and it could still happen, a possibility that Utah could wind up, for example, in that first wild card and have more points than the winner of the Pacific Division. Again, not the way that it's supposed to go. If it happens, it would be an isolated incident. You're not going to get that every year, but Anaheim has started to pull away from the pack just a little bit, enough, maybe more so than anybody has in the Pacific in a while. That's going to be worth watching too. I love what the Ducks are doing. They have a great mix of young players and veterans. And obviously a veteran coach behind the bench in Joel Quenneville. But that's going to be interesting to watch, because with teams that have a lot of young players, sometimes when the pressure increases, it's always fascinating to see how they react. That being said, as far as the Pacific goes, nobody's really taken the ball and run with it out of that division. And you have to like the veteran mix that team has. A lot of experienced guys who've been there, done that, some guys who've won. No doubt that's going to be a benefit for a Ducks team that does have a lot of young players that are carrying the mail. Some NHL debuts to know, folks. Cole Hudson in the last couple of weeks for the Washington Capitals. Lane's brother, Quinn's brother, Cole Hudson, Washington's second rounder in 2024, made his NHL debut after a couple of years at Boston University. He has picked up his first NHL goal. That is a name to know because, it's time to kind of start looking ahead. Who are going to be some of the rookies we're going to be pursuing in the hockey card world next year, 26, 27. I know we are just scratching the surface as far as 25, 26 product is concerned and chasing all the rookie cards of the key players from this year. But it doesn't hurt to, I guess, start forecasting a little bit. Cole Hudson, a guy that I'm sure next year a lot of folks are going to be paying attention to. He, as well as a guy who is a touted prospect but hasn't made his NHL debut, Cole Yzerman. Those two do have cards in the Upper Deck World of Sport Volume 2 that has come out. So that's something to keep an eye on. They're tough to pull. There are some short print autos, things like that, but they do have cards in there. So again, if you are just itching to go out and get cards of Cole Hudson, Cole Yzerman, players like that, there are a lot of cool avenues within the world of sport product, multi-sport product. Be sure to check that out. Some other debuts to know. We'll see what goes on with James Hagens at the time of this recording. The Bruins' 7th overall pick back in 2025. He's finished his 2 years at Boston College and has gone to Providence of the American Hockey League, made his debut in the AHL there. We'll see what Boston decides to do with him down the stretch. If he ends up playing with Providence the rest of the way and into the playoffs, he has an opportunity to be a part of something big there. The Providence Bruins, Boston's AHL team, has been one of the dominant teams in the AHL this year. You slot a guy like that in there, no doubt it's going to be a good experience for him. So something to monitor as far as how he is used down the stretch. Does he get the call to Boston at some point in time? Does he stay in Providence? Either way could be a beneficial experience for the youngster there. Carter Yakimchuk, 7th overall pick, 2024, the Ottawa Senators. They've had some injuries on the blue line. He came up, made an impact, scored his first NHL goal in his first game, has some really intriguing stats. The AHL affiliate of the Senators hasn't had a great year, but he does have 36 points in 50 games there. He did have a 30-goal, 120 penalty-minute season with Calgary in the WHL a couple of years back. So there is a physical element to his game, clearly, but also has the ability to shoot the puck from the point. So a guy to keep an eye on, somebody who I'm sure will be a rookie that's chased coming up in the 26-27 products. And a guy who's going to be maybe one of the biggest chases next year, you'd think, Anton Frondel of Chicago, 3rd overall pick back in 2025. Had an assist in his NHL debut just a few days back. World Junior title with Sweden, again, several months back with Team Sweden at the World Juniors. So that is going to be a name to keep an eye on. Some NHL debuts. We're at that point in the year where you start to get some of those NHL debuts, the key players beginning to make their mark. And with Chicago, just makes them even more intriguing. The Connor Bedard supporting cast. And these are all really talented players in their own right. In some ways, I feel like I'm doing them a disservice by referring to them as the Connor Bedard supporting cast. But Bedard's been there for a few years. Next year is going to be year 4 for Connor Bedard. Just got his 30th goal, first 30-goal season for Connor Bedard. So I would imagine that is going to be a recurring theme for most of the next decade plus. 30 goals for Connor Bedard. I would expect those numbers to be even higher. But you have Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar. You look at some of the defensemen that they've drafted, that they've added, whether it be Sam Renzel or Artem Levshinov. You go down the list, some of the players that they've added to the mix. Oliver Moore's there and Ryan Green's there. And again, a lot of good players that they've accumulated here in recent years. Spencer Knight and net. Things are starting to take shape in Chicago, and Anton Frondel profiles to be one of those 200-foot well-rounded centerman. So we'll see how things evolve for him, but that's going to be a rookie to chase next year. Folks, a guy that I get to see play all the time, Sergei Bobrovsky, climbing the all-time lists, up to sole possession now of 7th on the all-time wins list. 6th place is not far off. If you're looking at Sergei Bobrovsky cards, and again, played his 800th game recently, 18th goalie in league history to do that. I know longevity and games played numbers don't always sell cards, but when you add it to the rest of the body of work, it certainly can illustrate hobby relevance, if you will, or create some hobby hype. But Sergei Bobrovsky, 7th on the all-time wins list. At the time of our recording, his last victory individually was the 455th of his National Hockey League career. He's only 4 behind 6th place Henrik Lundqvist on that list, and he's played 85 fewer games than Lundqvist did. So Sergei Bobrovsky's career win percentage in comparison to a lot of these guys is really something that stands out. Now, there are some numbers that are going to be really tough to match. Marty Berdeur's 691 wins might be an unbreakable record. Goalies just don't play enough during seasons anymore. Remember, I think a dozen times Brodeur played 70 games in a year. You just don't see that anymore. But Sergei Bobrovsky climbing that all-time list. Rookie cards still pretty attainable. If you want a PSA 10, it's going to cost you something of the 1011 Young Gun number 240. The last sale of that was just a couple of days ago at the time of this recording. Per Card Ladder, all the sales data from Card Ladder, $349.99 for that PSA 10 Bobrovsky Young Gun from 1011. Raws will set you back around $50. He does, though, have a lot of rookie autos that you could get for well under $100 at this point in time. So again, for a guy that has 2 Vezina trophies, 2 Stanley Cups, he's climbing the all-time wins list, a lot of the all-time charts. His name's going to be right on there. One of the best goalies of this century. Again, not a bad card to add to your collection if you ask me, and there are some pretty affordable options out there. Release dates coming up. Oh, you caught a glimpse of the fancy notebook there for a moment. Try to keep that away from the screen. It's hey, it gets the job done. It's where Nonsense on Ice is born every single week, is right here in this notebook with a handy dandy pen. Nothing, no specific pen, just whatever pen's nearby. That's why this week some of the writing's in black, some of it's in blue. It's just whatever pen was there at the time. New releases, upcoming releases from our friends at Upper Deck, not just limited to hockey. April 8th, Fleer Ultra Superman. Also on April 8th, Allure Golf 2026. Keep an eye out for that. And 25-26 Flair Hockey. I've seen some of the images from this, some of the insert cards. It's a set that takes me back a bit, but some really cool designs in that. Flair Hockey 25-26. Keep an eye out for that. Remember some of the Flair cards from back in the 90s, and they came in those little cardboard boxes, and they were thicker card stock, and there were some really cool designs. Kind of takes me back when I saw the images, when I saw some of the promos for Flair Hockey. That's going to be exciting. National Hockey Card Day, April 11th. So again, be sure to get online, check the socials. I'm sure a lot of you are going to see your local shops doing some cool stuff for National Hockey Card Day, and see some of the activations that Upper Deck might have. That's something to keep an eye on, something on the calendar as the regular season and the NHL winds down. National Hockey Card Day coming up on April 11th. Allure AEW for the wrestling fans out there, April 15th. April 22nd, we've got Metal Universe 25-26 hockey. That's going to be coming out on April 22nd. April 29th, Credentials hockey, the releases, and some nice releases coming fast and furious late April into early May. You've got Metal Universe on the 22nd of April, Credentials on the 29th of April. And we always talk about Credentials for a product that Upper Deck does such a great job keeping the price so manageable on Credentials, and you can get on-card autographs out of that set, lots of numbered rookies, things like that. That's a really cool set every year. And SPX comes out on May 6th. So some important releases coming in the next month and change from our friends at Upper Deck. Keep an eye out for all of that. Series 2, we're still right in the thick of Series 2. So some sales data from Series 2 here in a moment. Mention World of Sports Volume 2. You've got some Cole Hudson cards in there to chase, some Cole Eiserman, tough to pull cards, but they've got some stuff in there. That's out right now, so be sure to check that out online or at a hobby shop near you. As far as Series 2 goes, some of the big sales that are rolling in, a number of the big sales, and this is to be expected, came within days of the product's release. You have so much hype, so much build up, especially with a rookie class like this. The Red Outburst, Matthew Schaefer, for example, that's still, I believe, at this point, the biggest Series 2 sale for a single, almost $9,000, $89.31 for a Matthew Schaefer Red Outburst to 25. You had a $3,125 sale for an exclusives out of 100 Matthew Schaefer. Couple of nice Michael Misa sales. You had the out of 25 Red Outburst Looks like that one was, do we have 4,800 on March 8th? That was right after release. 4706 on a Misa High Gloss out of 10 on March 9th. A Z Bullion Red Outburst. Not too long ago, just over a week ago at the time of our recording here, March 18th, $583 for one of those. Series 2's been popular. It's been flying off the shelves at the retailers, the hobby shops. They're having a great, they're doing great with it as well. It was a very anticipated set. You see the prices of the sealed product. It's already up a bit from the pre-orders. I know I've got a handful of blasters that I like. I like to do that and just throw them in the closet. I'm going to get to that coming up here in a moment. But you've probably seen the videos. You've seen it right here on Nonsense on Ice. We've opened some packs on Instagram. We've opened some packs here on the pod going back to last week. I opened some packs in Edmonton with Ty the Card Guy. Opened a couple of mega boxes recently from Walmart. They had the 94.95 die cut throwback pack in there with the rookies. Did get a couple of Matthew Schaefers out of that. Haven't pulled a Schaefer Young Gun, but got a couple of the die cut versions. So it's been, like I said, the retailers are selling it. The Series 2 doesn't last long when it's out on the shelves at the retailers right now. So when it comes to sealed wax, everybody, what do you do with it? Because, and I was thinking about this recently, there were some big sales of, and I know this is a different league of sealed wax, but there were some big sales of 79.80 sealed wax. We're talking Gretzky Rookie Year sealed wax. Back in February, you had a box of 79.80 O-Pee-Chee that sold for over $225,000 from Heritage in an auction, and you had a box of the tops from that year that sold for $33,500. That's $33,500. That was sold via auction, I believe, as well through REA, and again, that's 79.80. That's Gretzky Rookie Year. That's, if you're holding sealed wax, that's your dream that it would turn into something like that. But as far as sealed wax goes, I tend to, if I believe in the rookie class, I tend to pick up a few extra boxes. And I think that's the key there too. If you can get the boxes at a friendly price, at an introductory price, at a retail price, if it's a retail product, because especially with a product that doesn't have redemptions all over it, I think that you can do really well if you get the retail prices and you have the megas that have some kind of exclusive in them, or you have the blasters, for example, if you're getting them at $24.99 or $29.99 and you grab a few extra, you stick in the closet, they don't take up much space. And if you have a Matthew Schaefer, for example, in the set that winds up increasing in value, like a lot of folks out there think it could, or that, a bunch of other cards in there that you think key rookies that could end up being really good players down the road, then it could end up being a good idea to hold some of that. But I've done it a lot. I do have a lot of sealed wax in the closet, and it's gotten to a point now where I wonder what is the future of it? What am I going to do? And I encourage you on this topic or any topic, like, subscribe, comment, send along a question, send along a thought, inquiry, suggestion, concern, sentence fragment, whatever you want to send our way, we'll take it. At Doug Plagens on the Twitter X platform, at Doug Plagens on Instagram. We look forward to hearing from you. Drop a line, whether you're watching on YouTube, whatever, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're getting this edition of Nonsense on Ice. I've always held sealed wax. If you're a believer in a rookie class, I think it's a good, it's certainly it's generally not going to hurt you. And we'll talk about that here in just a few moments. As far as the pros and cons, if you get it at a good price, I think that's the big key. You want to make sure you buy well. Don't overpay for the sealed wax. Well, you can if it's an older box. If you want to go buy a box of 0506 Upper Deck because that is the Crosby year and you want to sit on it for another 20 years, I'm sure it's going to go up in value down the road. I don't think that investment would hurt you. But there are some risks involved to it. Get into the pros and cons. If you get it at a friendly price, generally speaking, it's going to at least hold the price that you paid for it, especially in a world today where you have breakers and their entire business is based on ripping product. That can benefit you twofold. Number one, there's always going to be people out there looking for the sealed product, so that could play into your hands. And they're not always just breaking new stuff. We see it all the time. There are a lot of great breakers out there that like to rip the old stuff, that like to give you a chance to get in and pull the old stuff, stuff from years past. So there are always people who are looking for the boxes, people looking for the sealed wax. Like I said, there are businesses out there that are based on getting product and ripping that product. So there are always going to be people who want it. It allows you to never have to deal with, opening that box and not getting a good box. It's always a roll of the dice when you rip some product. So if you keep the box sealed, in theory, you're never going to get skunked, and you've always got a piece of everybody in that rookie class just by having the sealed product. Even if it goes down in value, usually there's somebody, like I said, there's somebody out there who will take it off your hands, because there are just people out there that like to rip wax, and there are people out there who have a business that breaks, or that can always use sealed product for a number of different reasons. And again, usually if you buy it because there's, one hyped rookie, if things don't pan out for that player, usually one player failing to live up to expectations and hype isn't going to totally kill the value of an entire product. So again, usually it'll at least maintain something close to the value that you paid for it. Now, those are some of the pros. The cons, it can be boring. Sealed wax, it's not as fun as having that great card that you can show everybody. There is some aesthetic value to sealed boxes. They look cool. You can put them on a shelf. You have a bunch of them displayed. They can look cool, yes, but it's not as fun to me as having those handful of cards that you might be able to turn it into if you have some sealed wax that's increased in value. There's also the temptation part of it. Rainy day, you're bored, you're sitting inside, and you wonder how much fun it might be to go and rip some of those boxes that you have in the closet. Space. This is one that I think a lot of collectors run into. Sealed wax takes up a lot more space. You have boxes, you have factory sets. It can take up a lot more space than, a couple of slabs if you go out and get the cards that you really want. So that's something you take into account. Sometimes, and if you're like me, shipping can be tough on these sealed boxes. You have to, they cost more to ship. They're clunky. Shipping is, you have to take it to the post office, whatever it is that you do with it. Some of you do it all the time. You do it in high volumes. It's your business. I get it. When you're doing it sporadically, sometimes that's just the part of the equation that you just think, I just don't want to deal with that right now. Shipping can be tough with the big boxes, with things like that. They can brick. This is something else you have to be concerned with. We've all seen cards, whether it's cards in sealed packs, whether it's cards that we just have from 20, 30 years ago, especially really glossy ones, it feels like from the 90s, things like that. They can brick. That's something you have to take into account. And this doesn't apply to everything, but I know it became a thing over the last few years. It was a big topic a couple of years back, but the old CT scanning of the boxes, now it seems like that would only impact really, really high-end boxes, but I don't think they're going to be doing that with, blasters of Series 2 Upper Deck from this year. I'm not even sure if the CT scan would tell you anything about that anyway. But on high-end stuff, that is something, I guess, that as technology evolves over time, maybe you have to think about, but I don't think it applies to 99% of what's out there. I guess the moral of it all, because I wanted to bring this up, I saw those sales of the Gretzky stuff, the Gretzky year stuff from 79-80. But if you believe in a rookie class, whether it's looking at this Series 2 from this year, for example, it's a perfect time to look at it. You believe in a rookie class, it's always going to be a decent idea if you have, for example, looking back, if you have hockey stuff from 15-16, I'm sure that's done well. In 16-17, if you have football stuff from 2020, I'm sure right now anyway, that's doing pretty well for you. If you have baseball stuff from 2018, That's, well, to say it's doing well for you would be an understatement. You have a chance to pull some Mr. Ohtani out of there. Again, usually sealed wax, especially if it's a good rookie class, can do well for you. But this is something I've been thinking about for a while. And to be honest with you, I'm getting tired of looking at some of my sealed wax and having to store some of my sealed wax. And I'd rather turn it into some singles. So that's the market I'm in right now as far as that's concerned. And wouldn't surprise me if at some point in time here I piece off some of that sealed product that I have in the closet, even though I do appreciate a lot of it. Folks, sealed wax, what do you do with it? Comment, like, send along a question. For me personally, I think I'm at a time where I'm ready to part with a lot of mine and turn it into some key cards for the collection that I've been eyeballing for a long time. So would love to know your thoughts. Do you hold sealed product? Is it something you do routinely? Do you pick it up as you go? Certain years, depending on the rookie class, do you go out and get it? Let us know. We would love to hear about that. Hobby 3 stars this week. Hobby 3 stars, the mailbag value vintage pick. We're at about a half an hour. Going to be a hair shorter this week on the episode. I don't think we're going to go the full 60 minutes here this week. So again, coming down the stretch here on this edition of Nonsense on Ice. Hobby 3 stars. Brady Tkachuk is leading it off for us this week. At the time of our recording, just under a point per game on the year. The Ottawa Senators captain, if they get into the playoffs, you know he's going to be a big reason for it. And you know the way he plays, he is going to be dangerous to deal with in a playoff series. His 18-19 Upper Deck Young Gun PSA 10, the last two of those sold for $150 and $131 per card ladder. About at $300 for a PSA 10 Future Watch Auto from that same year, numbered to $9.99. Another one of those guys as well, part of the 2026 Team USA gold medal winning squad. There is going to be some hobby value for everybody associated with that team into the future. So again, a name to keep an eye on. Another guy who is a part of that Team USA gold medal winning squad. Next up on our Hobby 3 stars, Brock Faber, defenseman for the Minnesota Wild, maybe doesn't get the headlines as much because he's now a teammate of Quinn Hughes. But at the time of our recording here, he's having himself a really nice year. You can pick up his 23-24 Upper Deck Young Guns, number 215 in that set. The raw versions, $10 to $20 for a Brock Faber rookie. The Future Watch Autos, the last couple of sales of that in the $100 to $130 range. So keep an eye on the Brock Faber rookies. And another part of that great 23-24 rookie card class, you've got Bedard and Fantilli and Leo Carlson and Logan Cooley, Matthew Nyes, Dustin Wolf. Brock Faber is a part of that group as well. Igor Chinakhov of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, this is one that's come out of nowhere a little bit to crash the Hobby 3 stars here in late March. Chinakhov has always had a ton of offensive ability. His 21-22 Upper Deck Young Guns rookie card, number 471, raw, might cost you a couple of bucks at most. He's 25 years old. Now, this season, it's had some twists and turns. 6 points in 29 games for his original team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was traded to Pittsburgh on December 29th. Since then, 14 goals in 34 games, 26 points in 34 games, has found a new level offensively. He's played a lot with Evgeny Malkin. They've gotten some great chemistry. And all of a sudden, Igor Chinakhov has become a staple with this Pittsburgh team that looks like it is on its way to exceeding expectations and cracking the playoff field potentially in the Eastern Conference. Now, the job's not done as far as that's concerned, but where they are in the standings right now, not sure they'd be there without the work of Igor Chinakhov. Really helped the Penguins through that stretch of time when they were without Sidney Crosby there for a little bit. He's been a consistent offensive producer since showing up. And again, this is a young gun. Back in 21-22, you can pick up that card for a couple of dollars. Not a bad idea, depending on if he gets into the playoffs and has a moment, or if this is him turning a corner and we start to see bigger offensive production in the years to come. That is a name to keep an eye on. All right, folks, mailbag. Thank you so much for all the great mailbag questions that came along, and we are going to get to all of these right now. We're going to do this a little bit more, especially as we get into the off season, but we are going to open up the mailbag a bit more. We've got the first question coming in on the Twitter X platform. All of these, as a matter of fact, came in on the Twitter X platform. Amy chimes in on Twitter, which Sidney Crosby card is the best? Well, that could go a lot of different directions. I think if money is no object, for example, or I should say, it's always an object, but depending on what the budget is, I guess would be the way I would preface that. You can't go wrong with that Young Guns rookie card, the 0506, number 201, the last PSA 10, $3,750. The last BGS 9.5 Gem Mint, $2,125. That was on March 23rd. I still don't always understand the discrepancy or the disparity between the PSA 10 and the BGS 9.5 on some of these, but I don't think, if you're just looking, if you want to go and spend and that fits the budget, I don't think you can go wrong with that card. If you're looking at something a little more affordable than that, it's always intrigued me. There are a lot of Sidney Crosbys out there, and I mentioned the same thing about the Ovechkin autographs last week. A lot of Crosby autographs that you can pick up in the $300 to $500 range, which, again, for a guy who is timeless, in my mind, has cracked the top 5 in the history of the sport. I think it goes in no particular order. I think it goes Gretzky, Orr, Howe, Lemieux. I think Sidney Crosby is the number 5 now on the all-time list, best players ever. So the fact that you can pick up autographs at pretty reasonable prices, all things considered, for a player of that ilk, I think there are a lot of great options out there. So for me, I'm looking at either the Young Gun or a nice looking autograph in that $300 to $500 neighborhood, because there are a lot of them out there. Amy, thanks for the question. We've got at Doug Phil on the Twitter X platform. What's the most iconic junk wax era hockey card? So he's asking specifically 89 to 95. And I know that's the term that gets used, but that era of cards, I think I speak for a lot of collectors. Got a lot of sealed wax from that era at my folks' house specifically. But that era means a lot to me. Those were like my formative collecting years, and I still think back so fondly to a lot of the designs, good and bad, from that era. Most iconic junk wax era hockey card, a set that I think unfairly gets lumped in because of the era. 90-91 O-Pee-Chee Premier, haven't mentioned that in a while here on Nonsense on Ice. I love that set. In the summer, we are going to do a 90-91 O-Pee-Chee Premier retrospective, so get ready for that. But the Jaromir Jagr from 90-91 O-Pee-Chee Premier, one of the comments below named this. I think that is the most iconic junk wax era hockey card. You might have a different interpretation of this or a different view. You can comment below if you have a different card in mind. I know the Pro Set Stanley Cup hologram was mentioned. That might be the most valuable from that era, but and maybe the toughest to locate. But I think when you mention iconic, it doesn't always have to be the most expensive card. That's why I'm saying it's the Jagr. And again, this is up for interpretation, but from Lemieux's debut to Crosby's debut, the best players to enter the National Hockey League were Jaromir Jagr, Nick Lidstrom, Dominik Hasek, Marty Brodeur, in my mind. Those were the 4, and you've got a lot of others. You've got Sergei Fedorov on there, but I think Jagr, Lidstrom, Hasek, Brodeur, I think, are the 3 most prominent who entered the National Hockey League from between Lemieux and Crosby. So you're talking from the mid-'80s to the mid-2000s. And Jagr had he had kind of the personality and the charisma, and he won, and he had the mullet, and he played forever, and he was universally beloved and put up the huge numbers. That always means so much in the hobby. And he had a handful of different rookie cards, but I think it was that one that really is the most iconic. So I'm going with that. If you have other ideas, send them along. PSA 10s of that, $150 to $175. Raws you can pick up for $20 or less based on condition, depending on whether you are a diehard hockey card collector. If you are, you probably have one, or you're just casually kicking the tires on hockey cards. That would be a great card to add to your collection. Here's the question, what is the second most sought after Sharks rookie card? Celebrini's obviously the first. Well, yeah, the Celebrini Young Gun from last year has kind of emerged, whether it be because of buzz, because of potential, because of hype, because of everything that goes along with it. That's kind of become the most sought after Sharks rookie card. Now, Will Smith was mentioned in the comments right below by one of the folks on Twitter. If we're talking recent, that might be the one. If you go down the list, the Michael Misa in Series 2, a lot of potential with that card. I am a believer in Yaroslav Askarov still, the goaltender. Picked up a couple of cards of him going back to last summer. So that's another guy that, again, could have some big-time potential down the road. But one that came to mind for me, as far as Sharks are concerned, and a raw copy of it might set you back $5. 96-97 Upper Deck, number 384, the Patrick Marleau rookie card. Mr. Shark. 21 years in San Jose. I know they didn't win a Stanley Cup during that era. They came close. But to me, after the Macklin Celebrini Young Guns rookie, which right now is going to set you back a pretty penny depending on what condition you buy, if you buy a raw, graded, whatever. After that, the Patrick Marleau's the one. PSA 10s in February, a couple of sales, $80 to $85. If you're a diehard Sharks fan, that's probably one you should have in the collection. Or if you're just a hockey fan and you want a Patrick Marleau rookie, you could probably pick up a raw version of that card for about $5. And well-respected player, cheap card, one that's pretty affordable, regardless of what your collecting budget is, what kind you want to get. You can't tell the story of the Sharks without mentioning Patrick Marleau in great detail. The next question coming in, got a question from a Red Wings fan talking about Sebastian Cossa and his big numbers in the American Hockey League this season. Seems like the question here is if he slabs the Young Guns now, he says, does the PSA 10 increase his glove side attribute in the Iser plan, or should he wait until he's hoisting a Calder Cup? Because Grand Rapids has an opportunity to do that. They've been a really good team this season. Well, I don't think that if you want to grade the cards, first of all, grade whatever you want, but he has a lot of upside. And if you're looking at, especially with how long it's taken to get cards back to grade, depending on what your plan is with your Sebastian Cossa cards, you might want to get them off for grading. If you want to have them back for next season, might be a good idea to get those off as soon as possible. He's got a ton of potential. His numbers are great. By his standards at the time of our recording, looks like he's slumped a little bit. But again, Sebastian Cossa, first round pick going back a few years. At the time we're recording, 24-7-4, believe is what we have. 24-7-4, his record this season. .918 save percentage, 2.25 goals against average in Grand Rapids. And they have a chance to win in the American Hockey League this year. His Young Gun was number 708, extended series from 24-25. So that's one to keep in mind if you're eyeballing potential cards to pick up in the offseason, perhaps. But I don't think that grading your Sebastian Cossa cards would be a bad idea in any scenario, depending on what you want to do with those cards. It seems like he has a bright future. Here's another one. We could probably do a whole show on this. Who do you recommend to collect for the young stars in the game? Well, I know Macklin Celebrini is expensive. In my mind, has the closest skill set to Sidney Crosby since Sidney Crosby has come into the league. So that's a place to start. But at the same time, right now the prices are high. Maybe you wait and see if there's any kind of a calming down in the offseason there. This is where we're in a really fortunate spot as far as hockey fans and card collectors go. So many great young players in the league right now. Matthew Schaefer, if you're out buying the product from this year, he's one of the great rookies to pick up in this year's product. Going back to 23-24, a lot of great players. I just mentioned a lot of them, but that one's headlined by Connor Bedard. Again, going back through the last handful of years, Leo Carlsson is one to me. I think there's still a lot of deals to be had on Leo Carlsson cards. Anaheim's turning the corner. They're going to have a chance to win the division this year. Maybe, and hey, crazier things have happened. They may be a year or two off as far as maybe earning status as a true cup contender. But hey, goalie gets hot, team gets rolling. We've seen things like that happen. But Leo Carlsson, to me, is a guy that, again, he has huge ability. He's a number one center, so he plays a position that, again, should be really recognized in the hobby. And I think there are still a lot of deals to be had, and maybe there's some other guys who are getting the headlines across the league. And he did miss a little bit of time with injury this season. But we saw immediately he returned to the lineup. Anaheim's a different team with him in the lineup. He's that number one center that every team out there, every contender needs, and he is only going to get better. So a handful of guys there. Favorite card of all time? That last question, by the way, Daniel asked that one on Twitter. And the one before that about Sebastian Cossa, Gary with that one. Need to make sure I read the names on here. We have... I'm trying to read this name. WATTA-MBOR94. That's on Twitter X. Favorite card of all time? Well, I think because of the era that I grew up, I think a lot of people my age would tell you the 89 Upper Deck Griffey is the card. That's the card. Started it all for Upper Deck. Started it all for a lot of collectors my age. That one, anything from 90-91 O-Pee-Chee Premier Hockey, the 1990 score, Barry Sanders, for example, the 86 Fleer Jordan, all the iconic cards from that era. Those are my favorite cards of all time. 80s into the 90s. I love the new stuff, but I always appreciate the classics. Those are, to me, still the 89 Upper Deck Griffey. Getting back to the point I made about the Yager a few minutes ago, the most expensive card isn't always the most iconic card. The most iconic card isn't always the most expensive card. The 89 Upper Deck Griffey, it's gone up in value a lot the last year, but depending on the condition you want, still pretty attainable for a lot of folks out there, and to me, a special card. The next one, we are getting to our last couple of questions here. Last couple of mailbag questions. R. Hill on Twitter X platform. Best hockey players collect outside of Bedard, McDavid, players like that. Just named a couple of them. I think just looking back at the rookie classes from the last few years, I think there's still some great names to find. Go back to last week's episode of Nonsense on Ice. I highlighted some names, players that aren't playoff bound, for example. I think there were a lot, and all players with rookie cards the last few years, maybe that aren't going to be in the headlines because their teams aren't going to the playoffs. Maybe there'll be some deals in the offseason. Had a lot of good names on there. Bedard was one of the guys I mentioned there, but Matthew Nyes on that list, a guy to pay attention to going into the summer. A lot of great players to collect right now. Collect what you like. Start with your favorite team would be my first suggestion for anybody out there. But the other thing is going back to the classics. Like I said, we're at a point where you can't really go wrong with Crosby cards. You can't go wrong with Alex Ovechkin cards at this point in time. Obviously into the twilight of their careers, but you can't go wrong with those cards. To me, the classics, I think the all-time greats. Never a bad idea to buy them. Jarrett was the winner. Congratulations, Jarrett. You were the winner of the Tim Hortons packs that we did with the mailbag giveaway. If I could design an insert card, what would it be and what set would I put it in? Well, the second part of that would be, well, remember when Steve Mears was on the show, we actually discussed like a broadcaster relic set, pieces of our ties, things like that. That would be fun. Maybe something like that. Not sure what set we would put that in. I know a lot of broadcasters had autographs in credentials, but maybe we go to a different product if we were to do a relic version of that. If I were designing an insert set, I think something that was a collaboration with In-N-Out Burger would be fun. I do love In-N-Out Burger. I don't live in an area that has it, but anytime I visit an area that has it, it's usually the first place I go, and I usually go there multiple times. I think an In-N-Out Burger insert card would be pretty awesome. I also think anything that uses the 86, and this might be a little bit, you might have conflicting views on this. Some people are going to love this. Some people maybe not as much. Anything that would utilize the design of 86, 87 Fleer basketball, to me, would capture my attention in a big way. Would love to see maybe something like that. We'll wait and see. I think that would be really cool. I always see that being used. And Jarrett, congratulations on being the winner of the mailbag segment. Value Vintage, or the winner of the packs, I should say. Value Vintage this week. We've talked a lot about Tage Thompson and the Buffalo Sabres in recent weeks. Rasmus Dahlin and the Buffalo Sabres. And we mentioned Josh Doan, and Tage Thompson, I think, was on our Hobby 3 Stars for the second time last week. Well, largely viewed, It's either Dominic Hasek or Gilbert Perreault, who are largely viewed as the best Buffalo Sabres of all time. The first great Sabre superstar was Gilbert Perreault. Folks, you can go back to 70-71 O-Pee-Chee and Topps, number 131, his rookie card. Obviously, the prices on the raw cards vary a lot because of condition. $50 to $75 for a raw usually. A really nice PSA 7 of the Topps went for $179.95 just a couple of days back. That was a really nice looking copy I saw per card ladder. Hall of Famer, 1971 Calder Trophy, NHL 100th anniversary team, 512 goals in his career, 1,326 points in 1,191 games, all for Buffalo from 70-71 to 86-87. One of the greatest Sabres of all time, a Hockey Hall of Famer, and a rookie card that, or I should say any Gilbert Perreault card would be a good card, but a rookie card that you could add to your collection for a pretty reasonable price, depending on the condition. Covered a lot here on this edition of Nonsense on Ice. That about takes us to the end of it. Some items to get to in coming weeks. Mentioned, we'll be doing a lot as the playoffs approach. We are going to... the Ohtani prices are just going crazy. Have you seen some of this stuff? Trying to find a way to tie it over to the hockey hobby, trying to draw some kind of parallel. And it's tough because I'm just not sure we've seen anything quite like this anywhere in the sports card world, but might find a way to draw some kind of a parallel. We'll wait and see as far as that goes. We'll rip some packs next week. We've got some cool stuff, so we're going to find something to rip on the show next week. Take a week off the ripping this week. We'll rip something else next week on Nonsense on Ice. And again, the playoff race is heating up, so we're obviously going to have a lot to discuss as it pertains to that. Again, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nonsense on Ice podcast. Check out all the other great stuff across the Sports Cards Nonsense Media Network. A lot of great shows, a lot of great perspectives, programming, long stuff, short stuff, whatever you want to find. We've got all kinds of stuff for you from a lot of different great hosts, so be sure to check out all of that. And again, folks, so we thank you very much for being on board. Like, subscribe, comment, all those things. Would love to hear from you. Send along your mailbag questions. If yours didn't get read, I think we got to a lot of them here. If you didn't hear yours, feel free to resend it. If something else comes to mind, feel free to send it along. Would love to hear from everybody out there. We thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back with another show next week. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on the Yahoo Sports video platform now, too. That's really cool. So you can find us there. Just another place to find the shows. Again, thanks to all of you for tuning in this week. Thanks to Rebecca on the other side for the great production work. As always, I'm Doug Plagens. This is Nonsense on Ice presented by Upper Deck, and we will talk to you next time.